Hey, so my wife Eliza and I found out we were pregnant around 6 weeks ago. We've been married for 4 years, we're both 29, and we intend to carry the pregnancy. Eliza and I attended high school together, but we didn't get together until much later. We were high school buddies, but she left for college in New York, where she met her first husband, John. They married shortly after graduation when she was around 21, and were together for 2 years before parting ways. I will get to the cause later. Eliza and I grew apart after high school, but we reconnected when she moved back to San Diego shortly after divorce. 3 years ago, a mutual acquaintance invited her to a Christmas dinner, which is where we met for the first time since high school. We started talking that day, and I ended up asking her out, but she said she had just had a pretty bad divorce and was not ready to date right now, but she would gladly be friends with me again. I was satisfied with that, so we exchanged phone numbers and began talking more frequently. We became pretty good friends over the course of a year, and she was the one who eventually asked me out. I agreed since I liked her and could see a future with her. After dating for 3 years, we decided to marry, and we've been together for nearly 5 years and married for 4. When we found out she was expecting, she and I were overjoyed. So far, our relationship has been quite wonderful and beautiful. We had conflicts like any other relationship, but we always made up within hours, and there were never major battles, only little disagreements. But our first major disagreement occurred when we began discussing baby names. Eliza has only been pregnant for 6 weeks, but she was overjoyed and immediately began discussing baby names. She seemed quite insistent on the name Thomas if it was a boy. It was a great name, and I didn't hate it, partly since we were simply spitballing at the time and could always change our views later. Unfortunately, we ran into a stumbling block approximately 3 weeks ago when we disclosed the news to our closest friends. We planned to arrange a dinner for a few of our friends so we could tell them about our pregnancy. Our families were already aware, and we had celebrated the entire occasion with them. However, it was a family-only affair, and our friends were still unaware, so we decided to do a separate dinner for them. They were all quite thrilled for us, too. Eliza then started chatting about baby names throughout supper. When she revealed that she was considering calling the baby Thomas if it was a boy, her best friend Rachel appeared surprised, but did not say anything. I didn't think much of it, but after dinner, she informed me she was going outside for a smoke, but had forgotten her lighter, and asked if I could give her mine. Eliza dislikes smoking, so she instructed us both to go out into the backyard and do whatever we needed to do. Everything was okay up until that point, but as soon as we were out of earshot, she informed me she had something extremely important to say to me and began speaking in hushed tones. I was terrified that she was going to hit me, but instead she said something even worse. Apparently, Eliza chose the name Thomas during her first pregnancy while still with John. Rachel began by assuming that I already knew this, but I had no idea, and everything she told me was completely new to me. She informed me that John and Eliza split up after she lost her baby in her 4th month, and that John began cheating on her because he was grieving. She and Rachel had been friends since they were toddlers, so she knew everything, even Eliza and John's plans to name their baby child Thomas. Unfortunately, after Eliza lost the baby, the two of them began fighting virtually every day, and John ended up cheating on her with another lady at work. He was the one who confessed to her after a few weeks of their affair, and they eventually divorced. I'd never heard this account of what happened until Rachel told me, and it's not something people talk about, so I couldn't get the full story from other sources. Eliza informed me that she and John separated because they fought a lot and were simply incompatible. They got married young, which was a mistake. That's the story I heard from her and accepted until lately. I never considered the possibility that she was not telling me the truth, because why would she want to lie to me about something so important? I wouldn't judge her based on which version she told me, and she didn't seem horrible in the genuine story, so I couldn't understand why she would want to keep it a secret from me. Anyway, Rachel told me that she had a sense of I didn't know it was the name she had chosen with John, and thought it was her responsibility to inform me, even if she was Eliza's best friend. I thanked her for explaining the context of the name, but she had no idea she had told me much more than just the story behind it. I did my best to be calm and composed while our friends were at home, but as soon as they left, I confronted Eliza about what Rachel had told me. She immediately disputed everything and stated that Rachel must have been joking, but I took it seriously. But I understood what a joke was, and Rachel was not joking, so I insisted that she tell me the truth, and she eventually admitted that whatever Rachel had told me was true, and she and John had split up because he had been cheating on her after she lost her baby. Everyone in her family knew about it, as did a handful of her acquaintances. She hadn't really maintained in touch with any of her friends from here while she was with John, other other than Rachel, so most people here are unaware of her pregnancy or the loss of her kid because she didn't post anything about it on social media. She had planned to make the announcement during her 5th month, but she never did. She explained that she had left John and all of her friends behind and had returned here because remaining there was too difficult. Rachel had known everything all along, and she had thought that once we started dating, I would get to know her as well. But due to the sensitive nature of the subject, it was never discussed, and I never found out the truth until that day. Her family was aware, but they were instructed not to tell me because she did not want me to know. She stated that it was a highly personal and unpleasant incident for her, so she never wanted to talk about it again. But as much as I wanted to dismiss the subject and never bring it up again for her sake, I couldn't because I still needed answers. I told her that while I understood that she was affected by what had happened back then, I still needed to talk about it and get to the bottom of some things I didn't understand. I couldn't understand why she hadn't told me the truth even after we married because I felt like this was a big deal, and I should have been kept in the loop. More crucially, she intended to name our baby a name she had chosen with her unfaithful ex-husband. That felt strange, and I wanted to know why she was drawn to that name. Going by her logic, if she had abandoned everything in her past, including John and all of her friends, since it was too traumatic for her to relive, shouldn't she have also abandoned that name? It just did not add up. I was attempting to talk to her, but she kept ignoring me and scrolling through Instagram on her phone, so I became upset and told her that she needed to talk to me because she owed me the truth. When I replied that, she snapped and began ranting at me, claiming that now that I knew the truth, she owed me nothing. She then accused me of being a jealous and insecure narcissist who forced her to talk about topics she wanted to forget since they were traumatic for her. I apologized right away, but I also emphasized that even if we didn't talk about it right away, we needed to get things out in the open at some point because, at the time, I felt deceived and upset, and she didn't seem to care about my feelings. But she informed me she didn't want to talk about it again, and the fight escalated. We'd been battling for about an hour when she gave up, saying she couldn't do it anymore, and began collecting her belongings. She informed me she was going to go live with her parents for a bit until she calmed down, and she suggested that I think about my own actions with a clearer mind, and get back to her when I'm ready to act like an adult rather than a small boy. I was tired of fighting with her, so I let her go and did not stop her. I also didn't like the fact that she was attempting to dismiss my feelings and seem as if it wasn't a big thing that she had been lying to me for years about why she divorced John. I was angry, upset, and hurt, so I didn't believe it was worth getting into another argument to keep her from going. Furthermore, this was the first time we had fought over something so serious that she had left, so I had no idea what to do next. I attempted to distract myself for the following few days by devoting myself to work. I kept waiting for her to call or text, but there was only radio silence on her end, which was much more upsetting. I would have liked it if she had called me, even if it was just to yell at me. The silence was far worse than the fighting, and I couldn't stand it any longer because I needed answers and a solution. So, approximately 3 weeks ago, I went to her parents' house from work to speak with Eliza, but when I arrived, they informed me that she was not with them, and that I had to leave since I had caused a lot of sorrow to their daughter, who had been upset when she showed up at their house. They accused me of being selfish, for forcing her to talk about things she was not ready to talk about simply because I felt horrible about them, despite the fact that she had to go through something 10 times worse. They also mentioned that I hadn't tried to contact her in the days following her departure, and that she had been waiting for me to call, but when I didn't call for an entire day, she decided to go on an unexpected trip to clear her thoughts, and that's where she was. I asked them to tell me where she was, but they said they weren't permitted to, and that if I wanted to speak with her, I could call her myself. Then they shut the door in my face, telling me to leave them alone since they were not going to help me with this. It was humiliating to be handled in that manner, but I was more concerned about where Eliza was, so I returned home and decided to phone her. Thankfully, she answered my call, but she still refused to tell me where she was. I didn't apologize to her over the phone since I didn't believe I had said anything inappropriate, but I did tell her I needed to speak with her. In response, she stated that she was not yet ready to have a talk, if that is what I meant. And more significantly, now that she had some alone time, she had been examining our relationship, and she wasn't sure whether she wanted to remain with me anymore. She stated that she loved the name Thomas, which had nothing to do with her prior marriage or pregnancy. I was the only one thinking along those lines, along with Rachel, who she felt was just being silly and stirring the pot, and it grossed her out because it made me appear so juvenile and insecure. There was also the fact that I hadn't bothered to contact her after the fight, even though I had made her feel terrible. I tried to tell her that I believed my fears were real because she had been lying to me for years, but she ignored everything. She informed me she was going to be out of town for a few more days, and she wanted me to think about everything and decide if I wanted to be normal or continue to throw a fit over something so minor. She claimed that if I could accept her past and her refusal to discuss it, we could move on and seek counseling to deal with our emotions. But if I continued to disagree with her desire to name our child Thomas, she would file for divorce, since she couldn't stay with a man who didn't understand her. She informed me that it was my decision and she would be fine with whatever I chose to do. She then stopped the conversation before I could say anything else. I was unsure what to do, so I couldn't respond. When she returned a few days ago, she called me and asked whether I had made a decision, so I told her I hadn't, and that I needed more time to consider what I wanted to do. She said she was fine with it, but the more I thought about it, the less she believed in me, which hurt. I haven't spoken to her in a few days since I'm still not sure what I should do. This is a really tough situation. I want to have a future with her and my child, but she's being so unreasonable that I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I honestly don't think what she did was acceptable because she had lied to me about something so important, and I'm not sure if I can simply forgive and forget. She has also been discounting my sentiments and making me feel as if I am overreacting, but I am confident that I am not. I can't discuss this with my friends and family since it feels too personal to share with those I know. Am I a jerk for refusing to let my wife name our future child a name she chose with her ex-husband? Update 1. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for your verdict and advice. Thank you for that. I was completely at a loss for what to do. With a heavy heart, I had to accept that if we couldn't work things out with each other, a divorce might be the only way out of this, but that's pretty much my last resort, and I want to do my best to make things work, even though our relationship is highly problematic at the moment. So I told Eliza that I wanted to make things work, and she agreed, but I needed to quit worrying about myself. She stated that over the phone, which upset me, but I didn't let it bother me since I needed her to come home so we could chat and clear the air. So I disregarded it and told her that we needed to discuss it in person, which she agreed to, and we met last night when she returned home to talk to me. I could tell she had been in a tropical location since she had a tan, and I was immediately annoyed because while I was losing my mind over here trying to figure out how to make our marriage work, she was out frolicking and having fun on the beach. She was also quite chilly to me while welcoming me and acting as if we were strangers. So we got off to a bad start, but we still had the talk that needed to be done, and I brought up all of the topics that had been bugging me in the prior few days. I told her everything about how she had been invalidating my feelings and attempting to downplay the gravity of what she had done, and while I respected and understood that it had been a traumatic experience for her, I couldn't simply ignore everything I was feeling because she wasn't comfortable discussing these things. And I told her that if she had been honest with me from the start of our relationship, we wouldn't even have to have this talk now that we were married and expecting a child together. I expected her to argue with me, but she didn't. Instead, she said she understood where I was coming from and apologized, which was a nice change in her approach toward the problem. But she didn't stop there. She went on to say that, while she was sorry for not being honest with me, she was also very upset with me because I had been horrible to her after the party when I discovered the truth, and it was very upsetting to know that I would never stop and think about my family because I was too egoistic. I had no idea what she was talking about until she explained that she had been waiting for me to call after the fight because she was pregnant, and it wasn't proper for me to disregard her in that way. She was really disappointed that it took me 2 days to come over and check on her. Her parents had told her that even on the day I visited them, I had waited until I got off work to go look for her and chat with her, which she said made her feel unimportant to me. I tried to defend myself because I was also in a horrible mental state at the time, struggling to understand and accept a lot of information. I apologized, but I also mentioned that she could have contacted me as well. She responded that she shouldn't have had to because she was the one who was pregnant, and I should have been more concerned about her. I attempted to convince her that I was concerned about her, but I was also a human being, and I was feeling awful, which is why I didn't contact her initially. So she brought up how I didn't even try to find out where she was after learning that she wasn't living with her parents and was on a solo trip. She said that anything could have gone wrong with her, and I wouldn't know until it was too late. I thought it was strange that she was turning everything around on me, so I told her that I wasn't going to look for her or find out where she was, because I could understand that she needed some time away from me and all of our relationship issues, which is why she left in the first place, and I didn't want to intrude and irritate her even more. I also trusted her her and her judgment, and I was confident that she would not do anything that would endanger herself or our future child, because she was a mature woman capable of thinking independently. But that wasn't enough of an explanation for her, and she told me that I had let her down by not even attempting to find her and protect her while she was in such a vulnerable state, which was apparently why she said all those things about not wanting to be with me anymore and losing faith in me. I continued trying to explain to her that I was worried about her and that I was losing my mind over here, but I didn't want to show up at a place she went to get away from me and irritate her even more. I wasn't prepared to take the danger, so I stayed at home and waited for her to return, but she refused to accept my explanation. We ended up having another fight. She said that I didn't care enough about her and that she wasn't sure if she could do this anymore, so she wanted some more time away from me to figure out how she felt about everything. She departed after that, and we have not spoken since. I honestly have no idea what will happen, and we may have to divorce since I can't see how this is going to work. It's been stressful for me since I truly wanted to make things work, but it looks that she is unwilling to bend from her stance and is intent on portraying me as the bad guy simply by expressing my emotions and feelings. Update 2. So, I found out something dreadful a few hours ago, and I suppose I should have expected it. I was telling Rachel about the situation with Eliza since no one else knew her as well as she did, and I was hoping she could help me out here somehow. We hadn't spoken since the day of the party, and I hadn't told any of my friends or family about Eliza and I's conflicts. But now, I couldn't stop thinking about literally everything, so I called Rachel for help, and I am really pleased I did, because I doubt I would have found out about Eliza and her affair otherwise. That's correct. She has been cheating on me. I'm not sure how long or why, but she's back with John now. Rachel informed me that she had been waiting for me to contact her as soon as she answered my call, which was perplexing because she and I were not very close and did not speak on the phone much. She didn't even give me a chance to say anything before telling me that she had been thinking about contacting me for several days, but didn't want to betray her best friend and make things worse for Eliza, because she'd already caused enough trouble by telling me the true reason for her first divorce and the lore of the name Thomas. So she waited for me to contact her. She then emailed me a picture that Eliza had posted on her Instagram story a few days earlier, which I'm sure she had hidden from me by changing the privacy settings because I hadn't been able to access any of her stories since our fight. I had no idea what it was about because it was just a photo of her in a bikini, lying on a lounge chair on the beach with her sunglasses on. It was a cool picture, but that was it, and I didn't notice anything unusual. But then Rachel noticed an arm in the corner. Another guy was lying on the adjacent lounge chair, and while the person had been cut off, their arm remained in the picture. It was certainly a gentleman, and Rachel informed me that she didn't believe there was anything unusual about it until she observed a tattoo on the man's arm around their wrist. Zooming in, she discovered that it was a motorcycle tattoo identical to John's. It was a minor detail that no one would have noticed, but she told me she remembered it from when John first received it, and Eliza showed her thousands of images after they married. Rachel had even messaged Eliza to see if she was on the beach with John, but she didn't say anything and instead answered with a motorcycle emoji. Rachel told me she wasn't sure if it was John or someone with the same tattoo, and she even suggested that it wasn't even the same tattoo because it was so pixelated, but I could see it was in the shape of a motorbike. It wasn't that terrible, and Rachel was just trying to second-guess herself so I didn't feel awful. But when I saw that Eliza had answered with a motorcycle emoji, I felt sick to my stomach. It was usual for Eliza to be smug about these things, and I knew deep down that she had been cheating on me. Following my phone talk with Rachel, I decided to call my father right away and ask him to put me in touch with a divorce lawyer as soon as possible, since I wanted to end this marriage. I texted Eliza and asked her about the image, but she hasn't responded yet, and I don't need her to because I already know the answer. I knew she had been cheating on me, which was why she was fighting so much with me. There was no other explanation for her unusual behavior. I feel bad about it, of course, but it just provides me an excuse to leave and prioritize myself without feeling guilty, which I needed because I'm tired of continuously dealing with her and these fights. I can't do it anymore, and all I want is to be away from her. Update 3. Hello, everyone. It's been 3 months since I filed for divorce. There was a lot of drama when I accused Eliza of cheating on me with John, but she eventually admitted it and had been hooking up with him behind my back for about a year. John had contacted her last year during a work conference, and she chose to meet him for one final time without informing me because she needed closure, but they ended up being involved. And he even resigned his job and moved here permanently to be closer to her. She had been trying to work up the courage to tell me she was with him, but she simply couldn't. She did apologize to me, but it didn't mean anything, so there's a good probability the baby isn't even mine, and we're waiting for it to be born so we can determine who gets custody. I've decided that if the baby comes out to be mine, I'll have full custody, and if not, they can keep it. I'm currently visiting a therapist to go through all of my emotions and make sense of my life. It's going well, and I'm just trying to keep myself together. Thank you to everyone who responded and commented on my post. It's very wonderful of you. Update 4. Hey, just a quick update. The baby was born 3 weeks ago. He's mine, and I have full custody. The divorce also went through a few weeks ago, and I got to keep everything that belonged to me. They also did not receive alimony, which was a major disappointment for them, but that is what cheaters get. Nothing. I'm doing a lot better than before and finally getting my life back together. It's a lot easier when you don't have a crazy wife to deal with. Thank you so much for checking in with me, guys. Stay tuned for more stories about our female relationships.